Can I insult your religion? Can you insult mine? What about those people over there? Evil people. Can they insult our religion? Should we let them get away with it? This is what we're going to be talking about today. Hi, welcome to Oversight Examined. My name is Chris and I used to be a content moderator for Facebook. We're making these videos to look at how Facebook's Oversight Board thinks about some of the difficult questions around our social media use. Today we're asking, what is a threat? When is a threat not a threat? And where do you draw the line? So what happened in this case? Well, first, a little bit of background. This happened just after there had been a series of religious killings in France, where people had exercised their free speech and then they'd been killed for it. And this was being talked about in India, which is a country with a lot of its own religious tensions. And somebody posted a photograph of a famous Islamic warrior, or actually a modern version of him from a TV show, and along with the quote where he said that if their tongue starts against the prophet, then the sword should be taken out of the sheath. So if you speak ill of my religion, then we are justified in using violence against you. He'd also put some hashtags about France and President Macron being the devil. He's called for a boycott of French goods and gone on to say that Islam, or the Prophet Muhammad, is his identity, his religion, his honor and his dignity and his life. So obviously he felt very strongly about this. Now, this post was reported a couple of times by people. One felt that it was hate speech, another one felt that it was incitement to violence, but Facebook decided to leave it up. They felt that free speech was important here, but then they were contacted by a third-party organization. They have this network of trusted partners who advise them about things that might be dangerous or troublesome, and this third-party group said, I think this might cause violence. So Facebook deleted it. They took it down. But then they weren't sure. They thought about it some more. So they referred it to the Oversight Board and they've asked the board to have an opinion. So what are the issues here? Well, the first one for me is the use of this word kafir, which in South Africa is considered to be a slur. In a Muslim context, it means unbelievers, people who don't follow Islam, and it's pejorative, but it's not a slur, it's not a banned word. However, what it does do is it creates this situation of us and them. There's the good people and the bad people. But I'm a little bit concerned when I see that word appearing immediately, because it tells you something about the mindset of the person who's posting it. Basically, what this person has said is, if you offend me or my religion, my identity, then violence is justified against you. And then we now have to ask ourselves, well, is this a threat? But we also have to consider whether it's an imminent threat. Is it going to lead directly to something bad happening? Well, another interpretation might be, well, is this just criticism of President Macron's response to the violence in France? Is it more of a political dialogue than a threat? But then I have another question, is, well, hang on, is this supporting the religious violence in France? Is this saying that because those people exercise their free speech, then it's okay to be violent against them? And in that case, there's a whole new policy area opening up here, which is what we call PSR, praise, support and representation for acts of terrorism. And this brings me to some criticism. Now, the board, when they review these cases, they look at the decision that was taken and the reasons that were given at that time, and only that. And they don't look at the bigger picture. What other decisions could have been taken for what other reasons? Now, in this case, they've looked at this from the perspective of, was this a threat or not? Was that an imminent threat or not? Because that was the reason that Facebook gave them. But they haven't asked, well, is this supporting religious violence in France? They haven't asked any wider or deeper or more important questions. And the result is that if they decide that Facebook is wrong and the content should be reinstated, then it goes back up, but it could still be violating some other rule. I think the board needs to be a little bit more nuanced in their understanding of how this all works. So what was the decision in this case? Well, the majority of the board members felt that in this case, There maybe was a veiled threat, but it wasn't an imminent threat, it wasn't a specific threat, and therefore Facebook was wrong in taking down the content. So they've ordered Facebook to reinstate the comment. Now, there was a minority opinion, however, that because Facebook had already trusted some third-party organization to advise them, this was probably the right decision to make. And they also noted that, hey, there were these killings in France that this is obviously referencing and justifying. So they argued that Facebook had made the right decision, even if the board might disagree about the reasons for it. So basically, this was just a purely subjective decision, and it boils down to how you feel about, do you want to be safe and just delete anything that could possibly be dangerous, or do you want to be free and allow people to talk about difficult things? It's up to you. I don't know what you think. Down in the comments section, give me your opinions, and we'll report back next week. I'm going to go off and research the next one. I've been Chris, and I look forward to seeing you very soon. And very quickly, just one more thing. There were 6 submissions from the general public about this case this time, and only one of them was from the Asia Pacific region. 4 of them were from the United States, which means that once again, one culture and one part of the world is having a lot more influence over this process than anywhere else. However, the nice thing is you can actually see what was said this time. The Oversight Board has started to publish the comments from the general public, and you can see them right there on the website. So I do hope that in the future you're all going to get more engaged with what's going on.